Morning, y'all. Well, it's day 145 for my goats being pregnant. So we're going to go down here and see if there's any progress towards delivery. Come on. Well, how's it going, girls? The two pregnant ones down there are laying down. Like Daphne's gonna try to get up. Hey, Daph. Hazel's laying down. No babies today. Probably within the next, 5 to 7 days, I'm guessing. Well, Daphne looks like the baby's dropped. She's getting pretty hollow there on the side. Her ligaments are pretty much gone. I think she might go first, even though Hazel here was the one who got pregnant first that day. But see, her sides aren't quite dropped as much. They've dropped. But it doesn't look like her ligaments are all gone. I'll have to go in there and check. I'm still saying the next 5 to 7 days we'll be having baby goats on the ground. You guys won't be the babies no more. That's Flora. And that's her twin sister, Fiona. That's Sarah. Alright, goats. Right now, I'm just milking 2 goats. This is Nibbles, and she gets a little corn treat afterwards, sometimes goat cookies. But during the winter, I like to give them a little bit of extra protein and keep that milk going. There's Raggedy Ann. She's getting a little pre-snack. And Sassy, of course, irritate the goats. But these two will be getting pregnant in the fall for sure. And probably the 3 one-year-olds. Well, last year, I tried something different. In previous years, as many goats that were able, I went ahead and got them pregnant in the fall so I could refresh them for their milk supply. But last year I decided to try something new, and I had 4 goats that I could have sent over to be bred, but I always hate being out of milk, fresh milk. I always have milk. But I thought this year I would only take 2 over and get them bred and still milk the other 2 and see how it went. And it's done really well. I've got enough for milk for as many people as I need, and I'll be having babies here in a week. But next year I will have the 3 yearlings able to get pregnant, and so I will switch my regular milking mamas, and the 2 that didn't get bred this last year will go get bred with the year-old goats. So that's what my plan is. I thought I'd share a few thoughts as I go through my morning routine of feeding and watering the animals, milking my goats, washing up the milking stuff, cooking breakfast for Philip and I, and letting the birds out. It's the same morning routine most every day. What happens between breakfast and evening chores varies, of course. But come dusk, I go feed and water the animals again. Then I get back to the house for supper and to watch Wheel of Fortune. Living on a homestead takes a lot of planning. And if you're like us and try to live as self-sustainable as you can, then you have to be a planner. Probably the most important thing to plan for is emergencies. You never know when something might come up, either the weather might get a big snowstorm or something where you can't leave your place and you need your supplies, or if you get hurt and can't go shopping, you need to have at least 3 days worth of food, water, and your medication. It's real important to not forget that medication and don't wait till the last day to go get your prescriptions filled. For our water, we rely on electricity to pump our water up to the house from our well. If the electric is out for some reason, then we won't have that water. And although I have drinking water stored and some stored to wash our hands or whatever, I don't have enough like to do baths or showers or anything like that. So if we needed to do that, we would have to take the generator down there and hook it up. So the only problem with that is it takes fuel to run that generator. So you need to plan on having gasoline stored for your generator. We have a wood-burning fireplace, so for us, we need to make sure that we have enough firewood to last us through the winter. And it takes about a year for it to cure, so we have to plan ahead for sure to make sure that we have enough to last us all winter. Next is the garden. How big? How to get your soil ready? What are you going to plant? When to start your seeds indoors? When to plant them outside in the garden? What do you need in your soil? How much, for instance, feed of green beans do you need to have enough for the harvest for a year? What about your potatoes, tomatoes? The list goes on for everything you plan on planting. But remember the golden rule. Plant what you eat. For me, I'm not a big fan of beets, so I don't plant very many of those. Or radishes, for that matter. They're not my favorite. My advice is to plant a few more plants or a couple extra rows if you're questioning the amount needed. You can always sell or share the extra produce. I mean, who doesn't like a homegrown tomato or even a pot of green beans with red potatoes? Oh my gosh, I love that. Better to have too much than not enough, I say. You can't predict the good years you're going to have in the garden or the bad years. And I'm not going to be complaining in May if I still have 10 or 12 jars of green beans on the shelf. But I did complain this last year when we ran out and I had to be buying store-bought green beans in December. I planned for the right amount, but the weeds and the weather did not cooperate with me. It was just a real struggle last year. Lesson learned there and duly noted. We've had a garden for years, but each year is a little different. And for my goats, there's lots of things that I have to plan for. I need to know, first off, for me, since I do breed my goats, I need to know when they go into heat. And for my goats, it's July through December, and they go into heat about 18 to 21 days apart. But during that time, there's only like a few hours to a few days that they're actually fertile. So that's when I need to either have a buck come to visit for about a month and a half, or I take my nannies to someone who has a buck and I leave them there for about a month, month and a half. That way you can ensure they've been through a couple of cycles and hopefully they have been bred. And you also need to know what time you're going to do that, so they'll be born when you want them to be born, or around about. You know, you don't want them to be born when the snow's still flying or the ice storms come. But then again, you don't want them born when there's so much heat that the flies come out, because that could be a problem too. So you need to know that your goats are going to be pregnant about 150 days and plan accordingly. And you also need to know and think about when you're going to sell the kids. That's kind of hard to do, but for sure I sell all my bucks. And there's certain times of the year that the bucks or any goat kid goes for a higher amount. There's a few holidays that the prices go up. So that's what I try to do, is make sure that my babies are going to be weaned in time to take them to the stockyards. Just need to keep your eye on the stockyard reports, and that way you'll know kind of when they go up, the prices that is. And that way you can get a better profit out of them, because you're going to need that profit to buy the goat feed. And that's another thing. How much goat feed do you need? How many bags of feed are you going to go through a month? How much hay do you need to last through winter? It's all about planning. And for me, it's been trial and error. You know, of course, I would have been totally lost without Teresa Bowman. She is a godsend for sure. I bought my starter goats from her, and I probably called her every day for a month. I'm sure she wanted to block my number, but she's a sweetheart, and she did not. And pretty soon I started learning a few things, and I'd write it down and try not to lose the paper that I wrote it on. And I can't forget Gerald Johnson. He is my man on call for anything. Poor guy, he has helped me in some horrible situations that I don't even like to think about that happened with the goats. And he's even come over and bought my goats that I was selling, I think just to help me out. I don't think he wanted my goats. Anyway, he is great, and I love him so much. But not only goats, you know, most homesteaders are like us, and they raise more than just goats. You know, we have cows and cats and chickens and guineas and cats and turkeys and quail and cats and donkeys and dogs. And did I mention cats? Yeah, the cats are getting a little bit out of control out here. Probably need someone to come trap them and get them fixed. Any takers? All right. And since we have cows, they have babies, and some of those babies are bull calves. So you need to know when to castrate them and when to take them to market. How much do they need to weigh, and how long does it take to get them to that weight? So that's another thing you need to plan for. And the whole herd, since we have an alfalfa field out here, you need to know when to let the cows go eat on the alfalfa and when to take them off. And they do not want to be taken off the alfalfa. They love to eat it, and they would stay out there all the time if you let them. But it's not good for them, so you got to know when to take them off. And then you're got to decide on when you get your hay and your alfalfa cut, you have to decide how many bales you're going to keep and how many you're going to sell. Some winters are bad and you don't get a good hay and alfalfa cutting, and you're going to need more. That's just part of it. There's even planning where my birds are concerned. You know, every year chickens molt. They stop producing as many eggs. And a lot of people will say, well, just get a light and put in the hen house, and then you can trick them into thinking it's light longer. I don't think that's right. I think that the hens need to have their time to regrow their feathers and rest their bodies, and, you know, that's the way God made them, so that's what we do. But during this time, you need to have eggs stored up, either frozen, freeze-dried, or my newest thing, which is really an old thing, is water glassing. More on that in another video. And also, since most hens only lay for a couple of years, you either need to plan on purchasing more hens or chicks or hatching out your own eggs. And once again, you have to plan this around the cold months. You don't want them little baby chicks freezing out there. And if you do have them in the winter, then you got to have a heat source for them, and that's a fire hazard, and that's another long rabbit hole. Anyway, you need to keep in mind that these new chicks you have won't start laying eggs until they're about 5 or 6 months old. I have some eggs in the incubator right now, and they have 17 days to go. And so it'll be 5 or 6 months after they hatch before they start laying eggs, if they're hens. If you know how to tell if that egg's going to be a chicken or a rooster, let me know. But I really enjoy the journey that we're on, and I thank God each morning that He lets me live this wonderful life. A simple life that's filled with fresh air and no restraints, and a place where I can go barefoot to work. A peaceful place where my roosters call out to one another, where turkeys chime in and the ducks quack as they enjoy the pond. Our homestead where dogs, cats, and a rooster sleep in the same doghouse. Where the livestock guardian dogs sleep in the hay pile with the cows and the donkeys. Our little corner of the world where goats share their milk with us, and on occasion with a begging dog or cat. I couldn't ask for more in life as we're all just walking each other home. I thank you all for joining us on this journey. I hope you get a laugh or you learn something new from these videos. Please like, subscribe, and share. Until next time. Bye, y'all.